In the past year, 1 in 4 workers have said that personal stress has impacted on their performance in the workplace. And in a small business, one person suffering can have a massive impact on everybody else. Hi, I'm Kathy Doherty, the People Navigator. As a small business, you're not just managing tasks or managing the business, you're also managing real people with real lives. Stress can be caused by so many things, and today we're focusing on personal stress. So these can be family illness, financial trouble, relationship breakdown, or other major life events, or just what we would call life. Your approach can make all the difference between somebody coping or somebody crumbling. We've got healthy amounts of stress and they can push you, they can be drivers, but we're not talking about the healthy type. This is about unhealthy stress. So that's where we're struggling, we're not able to cope. And we all encounter it at some point in our lives, and some of us attract it more than others. Let's focus on what you as a small business owner or a people leader can do to help alleviate some of the stress that somebody is going through in their personal lives. Recognize the signs early. There will be indicators there, such as drops in performance, or more frequent or longer term absences, or it could be more last minute requests for time off. There'll be changes in behaviour. It could be that somebody's maybe more withdrawn, they're maybe more irritable, they're maybe quieter than usual. And sometimes it's not visible. It's more of a feeling that you're getting. You're sensing, something in you is sensing that things aren't quite right. We've talked about it in previous videos. This is where remaining curious, compassion, empathy, all of these things really matter, because you won't know what it is that's behind that. And the better relationship, so the more trust and trusted connectedness that you have with your people, the more likely you will have a good understanding of what's going on. But if you don't have that, you need to build that with your people so that they can be their whole selves. It's that more holistic view of what it means to be an employer. Long gone are the days when somebody left their troubles at the front door and they got on with work. And what you can find is where you have somebody who's like that, who maybe is less reluctant to acknowledge that their personal life is impacting on their work life, that can be an even trickier conversation where they're not yet ready to acknowledge that it does impact. And where those behaviours come out in the workplace, maybe they are a bit more irritable, maybe they're less patient than usual, there's something going on. Spot those signs. And then you'll want to create a safe space to talk. This is where somebody can be vulnerable with you. A willingness to be. Nobody generally volunteers to be vulnerable. And those that do are usually, it's because they feel they're in an environment where that is not going to be used against them. And as an employer, you want to create that safe space, because the more that you understand your people, the better it is for you in terms of being able to navigate and weave your way through the messiness that is us human beings. As part of creating that safe space, it's you being prepared to listen, not rushing to judge, not rushing to give answers or responses, just to listen, to give them the space. And you're listening without judgment, being mindful of your own body language, if you're aware of it, little indicators that you might give. Learn about your own body language and choose the more positive indicators, the more positive things to help somebody feel that they can trust you. And again, it all depends on what existing relationship you have with your people, but privacy will also matter. If somebody is going to open up to you, they won't want to be overheard by others. Remember, it's like that goldfish bowl. Other people, we're curious individuals and will like to have a nosy at what's going on, a bit of rubbernecking. Choose somewhere where you can talk in private. Have that open, honest conversation where they feel that they can be open and honest with you. And if you don't already have that relationship with your people, they're less likely to tell you what's really going on, And what will happen is you'll start getting paranoid. You'll start thinking it's something to do with the workplace. And that will begin to impact on you and your behaviours. Build those relationships with your people. Create that safe space and be able to have those conversations. And if you're not sure how to approach these things, then definitely get trained as a mental health first aider. There's loads of training out there. I usually like to use a charity or a smaller business for those sorts of things, because that way you're then also supporting potentially a local charity. It's more of a time commitment in a shorter period of time than it is in terms of a financial resource. But it is a skill, it is information that will never be wasted on you, and you can get them for under £200 to be qualified as a mental health first aider. They're definitely worth investing in, not just for you, but for your people as well. And where you can, maybe consider offering some sort of flexibility whilst they're going through whatever it is they're going through. This could mean a temporary adjustment to their hours or start and finish times, or just generally a bit more flexibility. Say if they need to leave at certain times, maybe there's visiting hours. Once you understand what's going on, you're then able to work out how you can help your individual employee. Also, maybe consider if you offer remote working, maybe an increase in that, or potentially where maybe other colleagues might be able to pick up some certain tasks, be able to provide more assistance. And this is where, if that employee has been a team player in the past, if they have given support to their colleagues, this is going to be a much easier task. Now, even if you have the type of person who hasn't been a team player in the past, this is potentially a teaching opportunity that they can see the benefits. No guarantee, because it depends on the individual and their psychology and but it could be an opportunity to broaden the mind of somebody who has been less of a team player in the past. Remember, no guarantees on that, but it's a potential. And it's important, if you do implement any flexibility, that you emphasize it is short term and it is to deal with the specific circumstances. It's not a long-term or permanent arrangement. It all depends on what those circumstances are, and it's more than likely if there's external forces where they're reliant on other assistance, they're probably going to end up telling you more than maybe they had planned to, because they need that flexibility. So you don't want to be the asshole in the situation. However, you still want to make sure that there are clear boundaries in place. So whilst you're wanting to show some flexibility, be mindful of what that looks like and the impact of that. And you're a human being. We like to help other human beings. That's how we have survived and thrived as this species of humans. So it is innate in us that we do want to assist others. But make sure that if you are offering flexibility and you are supporting your employee, you're still going to need to have boundaries in place, and you're still going to have to make sure that those boundaries are clear. It can be a time when boundaries get a bit more blurry and things can get a bit more messy, but this is when that employee will actually be relying on you to put those boundaries in place and ensuring that your standards don't drop, particularly if you're noticing somebody who's maybe a bit more irritable, whether it be with their colleagues or clients and customers. Her behaviour is still not going to be acceptable. And what you might also need to put in place, depending, is a plan on managing that individual's responsibilities during this period of time, because it could be that they actually don't have the emotional capacity to maybe carry out some of if they're managing people, there may be elements of that they don't have the emotional reserves to deal with particular team members. Maybe as part of their team, there are some that are easier to deal with than others. There are some that are more cooperative than others. You're going to have to work that out with them and what they're able to cope with, depending on what it is that's going on. But ensure you keep communication open. You cannot over-communicate when it comes to these things. However, just keep in mind that messaging or communications outside of working hours may or may not be a good thing. Again, the situation, the circumstances, it's balancing between showing support and potentially that individual feeling there may be under a bit more scrutiny, which is not your intention. But if they're feeling personal stress, if they're not as resilient as they normally are, all of these things can quickly get out of control, and unintended consequences, miscommunication, all these things can happen. Be mindful, be cautious, but you still want to be caring and compassionate. And finally, what you're also going to want to do is signpost your employees to whatever support that you have in place, whether it be an employee support program, whether it be mental health charities or helplines. There's all sorts of money advice type systems out there. So I would always recommend having a list of resources that you not only have available to your employees, but you also need to promote them. It's easy for people to forget what support is there if you're not promoting it in some way, if you're not putting up visual reminders in some way. What do you have now, and what are your gaps, and how are you going to fill them? How do you balance compassion with keeping your business running? Thanks for watching, and there are new videos every Friday. If you're not already connected to me on LinkedIn, pop over there and connect to me there, but also check out the website for programs and the mentoring community called We Are Legacy Weavers. If I can be of any further support on potentially a one-to-one basis, get in touch. See you next time.